Lưu. Các bạn nghe tín hiệu tốt, comment số 1 này nhé. Ok, thank you. Ủa, hiện nay không thấy mấy bạn lớp sợ mấy bạn nước ngoài hả? Rồi, tôi trong lúc mấy bạn chưa vô nên review lại bằng tiếng Việt cho nên là dễ hiểu hơn. Thì tuần trước tới thì chúng ta có dừng lại với nhau ở một số cái nội dung, thì có gửi chúng ta cái teaching note ở đầu cái sorry, mấy bạn vô sao thấy không? Đây, sẽ gửi chúng ta cái teaching note của buổi hôm nay ha. Thì tuần trước Tết chúng ta có trao đổi với nhau ở cái nội dung về thứ nhất là giới thiệu về một số cái khái niệm cơ bản của microservice. Bạn quốc tế vô rồi. Rồi, sao lớp này đông vậy? Này lên 31 không ta? Các bạn nào lớp tiêu chuẩn mình đây không? Dạ có em. Ok. Thôi cho đến bữa sau này sẽ nói với lớp tiêu chuẩn cái vụ thuật khóa biểu sao á, nhưng mà mấy bạn lớp tiêu chuẩn nhớ xử lý cái chỗ khảo sát cái thuật khóa biểu nha. Ok, thôi giờ mình có mấy bạn nước ngoài mà nói tiếng Anh để mình theo kịp nội dung ha. Okay, so last week we have introduced some basic concept of microservice, especially we focus on the monolith architecture. The monolith in Vietnamese we call kiến trúc nguyên khối. So in the monolith architecture, we focus on some aspect of this approach. So for example, firstly, this is a traditional unified model for design software program. And the second properties of a monolith architecture is it is designed to be self-contained. So the program components and functions are tightly coupled together. And then we discussed about the microservice approach. This is a new approach for software development. So in microservice, we develop a software as a single application, and in which it is a suite of small services, and each service communicate with each other via lightweight mechanisms, and we often use HTTP methods. Okay, and one of the most important properties of microservice is that it is independently releasable services to the user, so that we can seamlessly deploy an application based on microservice to the end user without corrupt any services or without shut down the whole system and then we start it again. And in microservice we have two aspects. The first one is information heading, and the second one is the difference between coupling and cohesion. So information heading in microservice is like the information heading in object-oriented programming, so that we have the implementation from the outside, so we can freely change the internal implementation of a function or of a service. And the most important thing that we need to remember when we discuss about the information heading is that we need to make sure on the service is backward compatible. Backward compatible means that when we release a new version, we make sure that the previous version or on the old version still usable by the end user. And then we discussed about the coupling and cohesion. Coupling describes the relationship between modules, and cohesion describes the relationship within modules. So in a well-designed system in microservice, we should focus on low coupling, and it is naturally that a system with low coupling is also high cohesion. So when we focus on coupling, we naturally get the other property in natural. So low coupling mean high cohesion. And then also in last week, we have hands-on practice. Particularly, we program on API using Java. So I think you we all still remember uh, the topic of AI programming with Java. So we have some step in that hands-on practice. So we first configure an IDE, but particularly Eclipse, and then we program a Get API. And if you still remember the Get API, we have two service in the Get API. The first one is the compute interest function or method, and the second one is Get Datetime. And then we improve the Get Datetime, or we enhance the Get Datetime method or function by allowing a user to input the time zone. Okay, and then we program a boss API. We first implement a student class, which consists of four properties: an ID, a name, gender, and major. And we program some function to uh, manipulate with a class. For example, we implement a function create student instant with an input parameter student s. Okay, and this is a very easy, it's just a markup function that we input and we get output, so we don't perform any implementation in details. Okay. And also in last week we have some exercise. So I think you still remember the first exercise we improve the get datetime method, and the second one is we implement a search method, and the last one is implement a setter method in OOB via the method named change gender. Okay, so uh, in this week we focus on two topics. The first one is the theory about microservice, especially the key concept of microservice. And the second one is we focus on a hands-on practice topic. And in this week, we will get familiar with some key aspect in Python. The first one is tying. The second one is pedantic model. And the last one is concurrency. Okay, and this week we also have a homework, and I will discuss with you the homework later. Okay, so now we go to the theory first. Okay, so in microservice we have some key concept. So the first is independent reliability. The second one is model around business domain. The third is owning their own state, and then size, and then flexibility, and the last is alignment with architecture and organization. So for the last one, we will have a case study, so you can study it at home. Okay, it is some kind of sales study. Okay. So for the first one, independent reliability. So independent reliability is the idea that we can make a change to a microservice, and we deploy it, and we release that change to our users without having to deploy any other microservice. So the word independent in Vietnamese we call độc lập. So it means that, as I said, we can make we can freely make any change to our to a specific microservice without affect the other one. Okay, so in practice, practical, we to ensure the independent reliability, we need to make sure that our microservices are loose coupled. So we must be able to change one service without having to change anything else. And some implementation choices make this difficult because, for example, sharing database is especially problematic. So I think you should imagine this example. So we have many microservice. For example, for the midterm project, you decide to implement about 10 to 15 microservice. Okay, and you have only one set database that on 10 microservice or 50 microservice use the same DB. So the problem is that if we change the DB, so for example, we insert a new column or we wrap any column from a database, or we insert a new table or we wrap a table, it will affect on the microservice we implement above. So the ideal model for implement the independent microservice is that each service will have its own DB. So as I said, and especially problematic when we deal with a microservice architecture is that we have a shared database for all the microservice, and this design is not qualified for the concept of independent reliability. Okay, so for to implement the independent reliability approach to obtain this key concept, we need to make sure that we need to make sure that a system or your system to be loosely coupled. Loosely coupled means that we are able to change one service without having to change anything else, um, as we mentioned on the slide. Okay. Next concept is model around business domain. So in business domain, we often heard the term or the terminology of domain-driven design. So for short, we call DDD or 3D approach. In Vietnamese, domain-driven design we translate in Vietnamese as thiết kế hướng miền nghiệp vụ. Uh, I will discuss something in Vietnamese for a moment. Từ driven trong tiếng Việt, khi chúng ta dịch hay là khi chúng ta đọc tài liệu thì thông thường cái từ driven đó người ta dịch là hướng. Ví dụ chúng ta có các cái thuật ngữ như AI driven thì chúng ta dịch là hướng AI. Ví dụ như YouTube thì chúng ta đây xem YouTube hay Netflix, thì các hệ thống như YouTube hay Netflix thì chúng ta gọi là data driven, nghĩa là hướng dữ liệu, là mọi thứ trên đó là chạy theo dữ liệu. Ok, thì các bạn Việt chúng ta lưu ý cái khái niệm này khi chúng ta đọc tài liệu tiếng Việt hay sau này khi chúng ta đi trao đổi với technical team ha. Okay, so back in English, so for domain driven design, it means that we allow our program or our system to structure around the real world domain. So in particularly, domain-driven design or 3D approach allow you to structure your code to better represent the real-world domain that the software operates in. So, for example, you are assigned or you join to a company or a team that develop a software for example, a construction company or a pharmaceutical company. So the most important thing is that you need to understand the business. The business in this case in Vietnamese we translate as nghiệp vụ. You need to understand the business of the company you join, the team that you join in. So for example, if you want to develop a software for a construction company, you need to understand all the terminology and the business flow of a construction. So for example, you need to understand how to manage worker, how to manage a blueprint to build a house, build a plant, and you need to understand all the equipment, on the component related to a project. Okay, in pharmaceutical, for example, you need to understand all the terminology of a pharmaceutical project. For example, some kind of medicine, some kind of chemistry, and the business flow to operate a pharmaceutical. Okay, and also you need to understand the specific properties of a pharmacist. So a pharmacist and a teacher, for example, is different because for teacher we have some properties that not related to a pharmacist. Okay, and so by modeling our services around a business domain, we can make it easier to roll out new functionality and to recombine microservices in different ways to deliver new functionality to our users. So rolling out a new feature that requires change to more than one microservice is expensive. Okay, um, because it is some kind of independent reliability. So when we deploy one microservice, but in order to successfully deploy the current microservice, we need to deploy another one first. So we need to pay more cost. Oh, this is cost too much because we need to manage the risk when we deploy when we deploy the other microservice first, and then we deploy our current one. So in reality, when you want to roll out a feature that requires change to more than one microservice, you need to avoid this approach because it is considered to be expensive. Okay, and in reality, if you need to if the company or if the team you are working uh, demand you to deploy the other microservice first, and then you can deploy the current one of you. So to do that, you need to coordinate the work across each service, potentially across separate teams, and carefully manage the order in which the new versions of the services are deployed. So for example, we have 5 service, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the fifth service belongs to you. So in order to deploy the fifth service, we need to deploy the first one, the second one, the third one, and the fourth. Okay, and when we completely and successfully deploy those service, you can now deploy your viral service. So in reality, this approach, as I mentioned earlier, is expensive because we need to wait the other deployment before making our deployment appear on a final system or a final product. Okay, and so on the screen you can see that it is some kind of model or business domain, and in this case you program an e-commerce website which consists of many functions, and in this example we only focus on 4 functions: the products, the campaign, the checkout, and the user profile microservices or functions. Okay, and we can see that each function, the product, the campaign, the checkout, the user profile, have its own database. And in this case, we use the term collection. So I have a question for you for our class today. In SQL or SQL, we have table and we have tables and we have rows in a table we call instance. So in which database we have the term collection and document? So the question is, what kind of database we use the term collection and document instead of tables and rows in reality? So you can type your answer in the chat box. Okay. So let me type the question. What kind of database engine? Okay. Just use the term. Sorry. Collection and document. Okay. So the question is on the chat box. What kind of database engine does use the term collections and documents instead of tables and rows, like the ones we use in SQL? Okay. So you can type the answer. Okay. NoSQL can be considered a correct answer, but the one I expect is MongoDB. Okay. NoSQL is a kind of database. So in NoSQL we call collection as schema. Okay, just not it's not collection in NoSQL, but in MongoDB we call collections for a table, and we use the term document for instance in a collection. Okay, so MongoDB is the correct answer in this case, but NoSQL is also correct, but it is a very general term. Okay, so the expected answer is MongoDB. Ok không Phong?
Okay, sir.
Okay. No. So in reality, it's not always that domain is the business that you are working in. So for example, domain is not just a construction company or a pharmaceutical. The domain can also be a team. So on the screen, you can see that instead of focus on the domain of a business, we focus on the team structure. So in this case, we have three teams: the front end team, the back end team, and a DB team or database engine team. So in this kind of design or in this kind of domain, we focus on vertical alignment. And when we consider a team as one for this one for product service, one for campaign service, one for checkout service, one for user profile service, we are focused on the horizontal team, okay, in the horizontal side direction. And when we focus on a team including front end, back end, and DB, we are using the vertical alignment. Okay, so in reality, you can have many kind of structural. So domain is a team, and also domain is the business that you are working in. Okay, and the kind of domain is a team we also, or AKA we also know as a three-tier architecture. So front end is the first one, back end is the second one, and DB is the third one or the last one. Okay, and this is some kind of model around a business domain. So we have three teams in this case, another team on the left side, a DevOps team on the right side. This is a consumer team, and the last one is deliver team. Okay, you can see that. And we have three service: the order, the delivery, and the consumer service. So in practical, for your final project, you can divide your group, or you can organize your group into group of business. So for example, a member will focus on the other service if you want to work on an e-commerce website, and another member will focus on deliver service, and another member will focus on the checkout service or the payment service. And when you combine the service together, you will have a full production software. Okay. Now, the next concept we call it owning their own state. Okay. So, so the idea approach that microservices should avoid the use of shared DB. So you need to remember this. Okay. In microservice, we avoid that using a shared database for all. We avoid to use a shared DB for all microservice. Instead, each service will have its own DB. So you should remember the one that the text I sent in the chat box. Okay, microservices should avoid the use of shared DB. So back to the design. Sorry, back to the design. So in case of your final project, you will have if you have a group of 3 members, each member will focus on each microservice. They will in charge of they will be in charge of design their own DB for its own service. And when you want to get information from your friend, you just need to send an input to an API, and you get a response from that API. So you do not need to understand the DB structure of your member. You just need to understand that if you send a correct input or a correct parameter, you will get a correct response. Just that. And you just focus on your DB only, not of the other ones in your group. Okay. So the design that each service have its own DB, or we call state, is a good approach when you implement microservices or in microservice architecture. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, if a microservice wants to access data held by another one, it should go and ask that second microservice for the data. So this approach gives the microservice the ability to decide what is shared and what is hidden. Okay, and this also allows us to clearly separate functionality so that you can freely change your code without affect the other member in your group. Okay, so owning their own state for short, microservice use of uh, avoids the use of shared DB. Each service has its own DB. Okay. Oh, I would like to note that MySQL is an example. You can use any kind of DB. So NoSQL like MongoDB is also true in this case. Okay. Next concept we call size. So there are many questions when you analyze it and design and implement microservice system. So for example, we have some questions like how big should a microservice be? The term micro in its name, what does it mean? How do you measure the size? Or can we count? Can we just count the line of cost? Okay, so someone in previous semester, some student come and ask me a question. This is some kind of very difficult question. How many services should I implement for the final project to get a good score? So this is a very difficult question because I cannot decide how many service is suitable or is enough or are enough for your project because I don't know your project. So if you come to me and you bring your project idea to me, so we can discuss how you can implement your final project. So that based on the consultant, based on my consultant, you can decide how many service is suitable for your analysis and design outcome. Okay, so instead of um, answering the question like how big should a microservice be or how many service are enough for a final project, you just relax because a micro there are some talk that I mentioned on the slide. So for example, a microservice should be as it can be easily understood. Okay, so you can have many services as you want, but you need to gather it as in a side that you can manage. Okay, or we call manageable. Okay, and for the second advice, the role of microservice is to have a small a small interface as possible. Okay, so back to the last hands-on practice when you program Java API. So you have a get data method. So get data method is a very simple and very small service that you implement, because this service have only one job to do: return the current time of the server, and then you enhance its ability by you allow a user input the time zone. So that get data will have two versions. If a user input a time zone, it return the current time of the server based on the time zone. If the user do not input time zone, so you just return the current time the current time of the server without considering the UTC information. So in this case, the get data is a kind of very small service that you allow an end user to interact with. Okay, and you just to keep this mindset when you design and implement at least the midterm project and for the final. Okay, so some advice. First, you should not worry about the size of your final project. Okay, especially the size of the microservice. Okay, and instead of focusing on how many microservice and do I need to implement, you should focus on how many microservices can you handle. Okay, and another advice is that how you define microservice boundaries to get the most out of them without everything become a horribly mess. Okay, so a good design is this case. Okay, so you have a service for delivery function, you have a service for consumer function, and you have a service for order function. And the service focus only on its own business. Okay. Now, we turn to the last key concept of microservice, which is flexibility. So, flexibility involves three aspects. The first one is adapt, the second one is evolve, and the last one is scale. And in Vietnamese, adapt we call thích nghi, and evolve we call tiến hóa, and scale we call co giãn, hoặc là chính từ từ scale ít khi nó dịch tiếng Việt á, nó gọi là co giãn, nghĩa là khi có nhiều người dùng thì hệ thống nó có thể nở ra được để nó đáp ứng. Okay, so the most important aspect when we discuss the flexibility of a microservice is evolve. So consider this example. So today you analyze it, design and implement a system based on microservice, and you deploy the system to a customer for using. Okay, so 3 months later, a customer want to implement another function, and they want to combine, or they want to plug the new function to the current system. So what should you do? Okay, so now you turn back to the first stage and you ask, does our system has an ability for an evolution? So when you insert a new function to your system, do you need to re-implement the whole system one more time, or you just implement the new one and you have some mechanism to plug in the new function. So for the second approach, if you can easily plug in the new function to your system without changing any own code or any own programming code, you are you get or you obtain or you achieve the flexibility aspect in microservice. So your system is now very flexible or very adaptive to a new function without changing any on code. Okay, so in practice, you need to understand the term flexibility. It is some kind of important concept when you program microservices system, because uh, you you always deal with a customer that they always have new idea and new request or new demand, and you need to fulfill their demand and plug in the new function to your current system without changing any cost. So in this kind of approach, you have a cheap, yes, this is an inexpensive or cheap approach to your system. Okay, so remember the three key: adapt, evolve, and scale. And all other three key concepts live under the flexibility concept in microservice. Okay, so when we discuss about the term flexibility, we are talking about the ability to adapt, evolve, and scale without changing requirements and technology or the own code when you get a new function or when you implement a new function. Okay, so in flexibility, we have some properties such as modularity, scalability, technology diversity, and resilience. Um, the resilient in Vietnamese we call khả năng phục hồi. So in English, in microservice, resilient is the ability that when a system get a fail or when a system is failure, um, it can have an ability to recover by itself. Okay, so at the moment when we have many powerful AI model, so we have a chance or an opportunity to implement the resilience by AI. So in reality, especially my team, my company, uh, we I don't hire any developer as a maintenance because I use AI as a maintenance. So, for example, um, when we sleep, the AI model or the AI agent just focus or track the current system status, and if any failure appears on the system, the AI will generate a code or generate a batch and implement that back to the system. So on the other day or on the next day or in the morning, I get up and I revise the code that I review the code that the AI model generated. So I decide to approve the code or I need to change the code so that we can see we can see that we don't need any person or any people to watch a system or to monitor a system. We just use an AI model or an AI agent to check a system, and if any failure appears, the AI agent can self fix that problem for us. And on the other day, we just revise or we just review the code generated by AI, and we decide to approve or improve the cost that generated by AI model. So um, in at the moment and in the near future, we will see that AI agent will help us implement the resilience for software very efficiency. Okay. Another term in flexibility is technology diversity. Diversity in Vietnamese we call đa dạng. So um, let me get back to this slide. So for example, To implement the final project of your group, so you decide to organize your group into 3 service, and for example, service number 1, service number 2, and service number 3, and you then decide that. So for service number 1, you assign to member A, and the member A decide to use Python programming language to implement service 1. Okay. And then for the second microservice, another member decide to use Java to implement this service. And for the last one, the last member decide to use, for example, .NET or not yet, okay, not JS to implement service number 3. And for the DB, the first microservice we use MySQL, okay. The second one we use MongoDB, and the last one we use some kind of RapDB or RapQL. Okay, so you can see that your system will now have a diversity of technology. So in the first one, we have Python and MySQL. The second one, you have Java and Node.js. And the last one, you have Node.js. Oh, sorry, Java and MongoDB. And the last one, you have Node.js and GraphQL. And these microservice will now interact with each other. Oh, I can read it. These service will now interact with each other by using HTTP. Okay. And it is also for this guy. So for your final project, you can organize into 3 services that we see on the screen. And for the first service, you decide to use Python and MySQL. For the second service, you decide to use Java and MongoDB. For the last one, you decide to use Node.js and GraphQL. And then you wrap on the implementation. Okay. You didn't wrap anything together, and we call this abrupt. We call this abrupt as information heading. Okay, so you hide the internal implementation from the outside. Okay, and then just one. Okay, so you will now have 3 independent microservices. Each one have its own state, and each one have its own technology, and you hide everything from external user. So this is some kind of information hiding. So, and you allow each service can communicate with each other by using HTTP methods. And when you combine on the terminology together, you are approach to the microservice by application. Okay, so this is some kind of design for your midterm or for your final project, and in the future for your software or for your system. Okay. Before we go to the next session, do I have any question? Does anyone else in our class in our last one me to discuss in Vietnamese for the previous information? Có bạn nào cần thầy giải thích bằng tiếng Việt cái phần này không? Trời, mọi người đi ngủ hết rồi hả? Hello, are you still here with
Hello,
me? Hello, hello, hello. Có ai ở đây không?
chào.
À,
Dạ,
có
dạ
bạn nào
bằng tiếng Việt
cần...
không thầy?
Không là phải không có câu hỏi.
Ok, không có câu hỏi mà có cần giải thích bằng tiếng Việt không?
Dạ
Chắc
có
là
thầy.
có thầy ơi, nói bằng tiếng Việt ít thì thầy.
Có thầy.
Ok, ok. So, I will discuss some detail in Vietnamese a little. Okay. Bây giờ dạy lớp tiếng Anh rất mệt phải nói nhiều ngôn ngữ. Bởi vì nói trên lớp nó sẽ dễ hơn, anh thầy tương tác với mọi người được. Thì chúng ta nãy giờ nói rất nhiều cái key concept, ra là 6 cái liên quan tới microservice, nhưng mà thật ra cái hình mà thầy vẫn thích nhất trong các cái slide vừa rồi là cái hình này. Chứ chúng ta nhớ lại cái hình này nếu mà bản gốc á, tức là nếu không có mấy phần tô đỏ của này á, thì nó là cái gì? Có 3 cái service, mỗi một cái service là có riêng DB. Thì ta lấy ví dụ à, ví dụ cuối kỳ nhớ chúng ta chọn là hệ thống thương mại điện tử. Thương mại điện tử lớn lắm mà, thì nhóm của mình mới quyết định là cho ví dụ như thì mượn tên mọi người cho vậy, nó ví dụ cho bạn Đăng, là cho ông Đăng là có chức năng có những cái phương thức, những cái function, những cái service cho khách hàng có thể mua được hàng. Thì để mua hàng thì ông Đăng nó sẽ quan tâm tới cái mấy chức năng là gì? Cho khách hàng thêm một món hàng vào giỏ hàng, đúng không? Rồi ông Đăng ông mới cho phép là khách hàng được ghép cái danh sách sản phẩm. Rồi ông Đăng ông phải có chức năng cho phép khách hàng search, tìm một cái sản phẩm nào đó. Vậy thì sau khi ông Đăng ông lập trình một lô mấy cái hàm đó xong, chúng ta gọi là hàm, là phương thức ha. Sau ông Đăng ông mới đóng gói cái đám hàm ở lại, thì những cái hàm đó lúc này nó sẽ trở thành là gì? Service. Đừng quan tâm tới cái 2 và 3. Thì lúc này ông Đăng ông nói là thôi em không biết code mấy cái ngôn ngữ khác, cho nên em chọn code bằng Python. Ok luôn. Rồi sau ông Đăng ông mới nói tiếp, em biết code Python nhưng mà database em không có xài Mongo, em chỉ biết mỗi MySQL thôi, cho nên database em xài MySQL luôn. Rồi đồng ý luôn. Rồi như vậy ông Đăng ông code xong bằng Python, ông làm cái DB xong, ông đóng gói nguyên cục ông lại. Chúng ta thấy cái hình chữ nhật thầy bao ở ngoài á. Như vậy thì lúc này á, cái ông khác trong nhóm, ví dụ như giờ ông Linh trong nhóm, ông mới đặt câu hỏi là thích bây giờ làm sao tôi gọi được mấy cái hàm của ông Đăng code. Nó ví dụ ngày xưa chúng ta code bằng một framework duy nhất, ví dụ dùng Node.js code hết từ đầu tới cuối thì gọi là đơn giản rồi, chấm cái là ra cái function. Giờ sao gọi? Thế thì giờ ông Đăng nói là gọi thông qua HTTP. Chúng ta nhớ lại cái bài thực hành tuần trước á, là chúng ta thấy việc gọi phương thức là bây giờ đâu cần phải có trình biên dịch gì nữa đâu, chúng ta gọi thông qua giao thức HTTP là xong. Ta lưu ý cho đó. Thì qua tới ông Linh thì bây giờ ông có cái chức năng ví dụ như thanh toán, thì thanh toán là phải có đơn hàng đúng không? Rồi phải kiểm tra coi giá tiền của đơn hàng vân vân. Thì ông Linh ông mới code bằng Java và database, ông dùng MongoDB. Chúng ta thấy cái technology lúc này là mà ai nấy code là không có giống ai hết. Rồi do ông Linh ông mới đóng hết cái chức năng của ông lại, cái hình chữ nhật bao ở ngoài. Ổng cho phép ông Đăng gọi tới ổng thông qua HTTP, mấy cái phương thức mà giống chúng ta code hôm tuần vừa rồi. Rồi bây giờ tới ví dụ như ông khác đi, ông Bảo đi. Ông Bảo thì ông mới nói rằng là thôi bây giờ mấy kia ông biết code, tôi code Node.js với GraphQL cho cái chức năng là ví dụ như là gợi ý sản phẩm cho khách hàng. Ví dụ giờ ông Phúc vô hệ thống, ông Phúc đang lướt lướt mấy cái món công nghệ, thì cái món tiếp theo mà giới thiệu cho ông Phúc mua là đồ công nghệ luôn, thì ông Đăng sẽ ông Bảo phụ trách cái nhóm chức năng là recommendation. Thế thì ông Bảo có bà nói gì cái đó kia xong đóng hết mọi thứ lại. Như vậy thì khi khách hàng vô hệ thống đang xài mấy chức năng của ông Đăng, cái giờ ông Đăng nói ôi chết, bây giờ cái món tiếp theo giới thiệu cho ông Phúc là món gì đây, phải xài tới cái recommendation của ông Bảo mới được. Thì ông Đăng lúc này mới làm gì? Gọi HTTP phương thức get tới phương thức của ông Bảo để lấy dữ liệu về feed lên cái giao diện cho ông Phúc xem. Thế thì chúng ta sẽ thấy là cái gì? Rõ ràng khi chúng ta chia team của mình theo cái microservice thì mỗi người trong nhóm mà làm một việc khác nhau. Và tới và cứ mỗi một giai đoạn gì như một tuần một lần mọi người ngồi xuống để coi mấy cái chức năng hiện giờ giữa các bạn với nhau có giao tiếp được với nhau hay không. Nếu được thì chúng ta sẽ bắt đầu improve, làm tiếp, implement tiếp cái hệ thống. Thì cái ý tưởng như vậy chúng ta gọi là microservice. Thì trong xuyên suốt mấy cái hình từ nãy giờ chúng ta coi thì cái hình này là cái hình nó khá gần gũi với cái ý tưởng mà chúng ta đang nói. Ok, thì tư tưởng về mặt lý thuyết là như vậy. Nhưng mà tới lúc mà chúng ta lập trình thì nó sẽ khác. Thì tuần sau offline trở lại thì thầy sẽ nói lập trình API cho chúng ta nghe. Còn tuần này thì chúng ta sẽ làm quen những cái khái niệm quan trọng của Python trước khi chúng ta bắt tay vô fast API. thì tiếng Việt nha. Mình dùng Docker, Docker cũng được, Kubernetes cũng được. Thật ra từ đóng gói ở đây á, thầy muốn giải thích một tí. Từ đóng gói ở đây chúng ta gọi là encapsulate. Mục đích của nó là để làm gì? Information hiding, che giấu thông tin. Còn đóng gói mà như bạn Tuấn bạn Tuấn Anh hỏi thì cái đóng gói của bạn Tuấn Anh hỏi nó là đóng gói về mặt kỹ thuật, là làm sao chúng ta deploy cái đống này lên server. Thì chúng ta có rất nhiều cách để deploy, dùng Docker cũng được, dùng Kubernetes cũng được ha. Ok, rồi phần giải thích tiếng Việt vậy các bạn được chưa? Đăng Linh bảo gì ổn không? Ok rồi. Okay, so I think we have too much information today for the theory lecture. So I think we can change the atmosphere by turning to the second topic of our class today, the practice. Okay, the hands-on practice. Do you need some time for a short break? Ra chơi. Do you need some time? 5 minutes? We we should have a break first before starting. Okay, so 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay, so 5 minutes. You should prepare a cup of coffee before we turn into the coding session. 5 minutes. Okay. Okay. Hello. Back to class. Okay, so on the chat box, I just send you some material for the tutorial. The first one is the hands-on practice tutorial, and the second one is the a recommendation from me that you should use virtual environment when working with Python. Okay, so you can use the virtual NV wrapper, or you can use Anaconda. So uh, if you want to use graphical user interface application, or if you prefer command line or terminal interface, you can use the Anaconda. Okay, so do you know how to use the Anaconda software? Do I need to have instruct you how to use that software? Lớp mình các bạn biết dùng phần mềm Anaconda không?
No.
No, okay. So first you need to download and install the Anaconda software to your computer. Okay, and when you done, you type number 2 for me. So I will go to the next session. Okay. So the first step, download and install Anaconda to your system. Okay. Can we go on?
Excuse me, I'm still downloading the Anaconda in progress.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I try to use Anaconda, but it is way too difficult to use. I know it is free to download, but it's too hard to use.
Okay, so I will write you how to use the Anaconda later, because in the first lab, in the first topic in Fast API, at the moment we don't need to use Anaconda, so we can use some compiler online, Python, as Phong said, we can use Google Colab for the first lab. Okay, for this lab today. Okay, and then I will guide you the Anaconda later. Okay, so let me share the screen.
Excuse me, so do we use Anaconda in this course?
Yes, we should use Anaconda in this code. So you just download it and keep it in your computer later. Okay. Kim à, nói Kim hỏi à?
Dạ đúng rồi ạ. Thì em chỉ có hỏi là là chúng ta có sử dụng Google Colab trong môn học này không thôi.
Chứ
Em
nãy
hỏi vậy.
tưởng hỏi dùng Anaconda. Google Colab thì Google nó chỉ dùng chữa cháy bữa nay thôi, hiểu không? Chỉ dùng tạm bữa nay thôi, còn các bữa sau
Dạ,
chúng ta có trên máy nha.
Dạ em biết rồi.
Okay. Okay, so we go to the first unit in Fast API, which is about Python type hint. So in Python, the Python programming language allow you to implement a function, implement a program, and in that program you can define any variables without explicitly define its type. So for example, on the screen, on the symbol program on the screen, you can see that we have a function named get full name, and that function have two parameters. The first one is first name and the last one is last name. So we do not know, or we do not know the type of first name and last name. In reality, it is a string, but in the program, we do not explicitly define the type of first name and last name. So you can see that your program still successfully combine and you can run the program. But in reality, you use some IDE such as PyCharm from IntelliJ, or you use Microsoft Visual Studio Code. So when you use Python typing, you can take advantage of the auto completion feature of the editor. So let's take an example. On figure 1, you can see that because you don't explicitly define the type of first name parameter. So when you type first name dot, the editor cannot suggest any function that compatible with the variable, with the first name variable, because the editor doesn't understand or doesn't know the type of the first name variable. But in the second figure, or figure number 2, you can see that on the first slide, date, get full name, and you explicitly define the first name as a string and last name as a string. So the compiler or the editor is now understand the type, so it can suggest you the corresponding method related to the variable. So for example, when you type first name dot, the editor now show you a list of compatible functions such as title, file, John, count, and so on, because the editor now know that you use the string as the data type for the first name. Okay, so Python typing is a kind of you explicitly define the variable type or variable data type in your code. So now, besides you can define the data type for a variable, you can also define the return type for a function. So you can see that we have a function named right? With an input, with one parameter as an input, name, and the data type is string, and this function return a string. So you explicitly define the return type or the return data type of a function in Python by using two characters. The first character is a minus, and the second one is the larger character. This is some kind of error when you view the program or when you visual the program. Okay, so this function return a string, a combine, a concatenation, a concatenated string, hello and name. Okay, now in Python you have many data type, especially primitive data type. Primitive in Vietnamese chúng ta gọi là kiểu dữ liệu nguyên thủy. Trong Java là các kiểu dữ liệu nguyên thủy như int, double, float. Okay, so primitive data type in Python we have, for example, int, float, bool, bytes, and etc. And for example, you have a function named get items. You have item A type string, item B type int integer, item C type float, and so on. Okay, so this is a kind of Python type hint. So you explicitly define the data type of a variable or a function. Okay, the return type of a function. And now you can also use Python typing for generic data type such as a dictionary, a list, a set, a table. A dictionary in Python is store data in a sort of key and value. This is some kind of JSON. Okay, so for example, you have a function named process items, and the input is an item, and its corresponding data type is list, and each element in the item have the type of string. And then you traverse on the item you traverse on element in the items list, and you bring the information on the screen. Okay, so in this kind of software, in this kind of function, you define the Python typing for an items as a list of string. Okay, and you should remember that dictionary, list, set, table is a kind of generic types in Python. And you can also define a class as a types. So for example, you have a class person, and you have an init function. Init function in Python is a kind of constructor. So in Java we have constructor, and its name is like the name of the class. In Python, the constructor is named as init. Okay, and another function that outside the person class, you have a function named get person name, and the parameter you define its type is person explicitly in this case. Okay, so when you type one person in editor, when you type one person dot, the editor will suggest you a list of function or a list of properties that you can get from a person class. Okay, so for the first unit of today class, of today hands-on practice topic, you will get familiar with Python type hint. Now for the second unit, we talk about Pydantic model. Okay, so Pydantic is a kind of library in Python which is used for data parsing and data validation. So before using the Pydantic, you should install the Pydantic via the pip command. Okay, I think you are familiar with this command on Python. Now let me see this as this sample program. You define a user class, and in this user class we have 4 properties. The first one is the user ID. The second one is the name of the user. The third one is sign up timestamp. TS is abbreviated of time stem. Okay, and we have a list of friends that as a friend of the current user. So friends is defined as a list, and each element in that list is an integer because a user ID is represented as an integer number. Okay, and you should focus on the base model definition. So in Python, when you put something inside a parenthesis or a pair parenthesis, you are inherit from a base class. So in this case, user inherits from base model, and base model is a model defined by Dantic. Okay. So now, what is the objective of using Pydantic? So let's see from line 12 to line 19. So from line 12 to 16, you define an external data variable, and external data is a dictionary because each element is represented as a JSON or a key value. Okay, so we have key ID value 123. We have key sales timestamp value 2017 and so on. You have key friends and its corresponding values is 1, 2, and 3. Pay attention. 1 is an integer, 2 is a string, and 3 is what? Okay, so you should focus on this case when you implement the sample program and combine it. Okay, focus on the number 3. Okay, they missing property in this case. You can see that the name. Okay, because you define in your user class that if a user don't input a name for a user, so example in this case we don't have the name value of external data, so if we use the default value John Doe. Okay, so when we type name and we assign John Doe, we are telling the compiler that if a user do not enter or do not give the name property, use the default value, which is John Doe in this case. Okay. In line 17, you define a user variable, and this user variable is belongs to the user class, and you now input the external data to the user class. And in this case, you can see that the Pydantic model will automatically assign the variable of external data to its corresponding property of the user's class. So in this case, we'll assign ID from external data to the ID in user model or user class, assign up timestamp to the sign up timestamp property, and so on for the friends. Okay. And on line 18 and 19, we bring the output on the screen to check the program. Okay, so when we use the Pydantic model, we use its automation in data parsing and data validation. So in this case, you are assigning a dictionary to class instance without explicitly define its line. Okay. Now, for unique number 3, concurrency. Unique number 3, we don't have too much cost in this case because I want you to understand the idea of two terminologies, synchronous and asynchronous. In Vietnamese, we call synchronous là đồng bộ, and asynchronous in Vietnamese is bất đồng bộ. Okay, to understand these terms, you need to view figure 1. Okay, so on the left of the figure 1 is a synchronous example. You have process A and process B, and this is a sequence diagram in UML. So when process A are processing, it needs to call something from process B, and in synchronous approach, the process A need to wait for a response from process B before it continue processing its flow. Okay. In asynchronous, on the other hand, process A call process B, and while the time it waiting process B processing, it can continue working, and when the process B respond a value, the process A keep working without have break time during the time that it's waiting process B process. Okay, so synchronous, we need to wait something, and in asynchronous we don't need to wait something. So you need to remember the term synchronous and asynchronous in theory, and in practice you need to understand the term async and await keyword in Python. So for unit number 3, concurrency, you don't have code to implement. You need to read the tutorial and understand two things: synchronous and asynchronous, and the two keywords are async and await. Okay, so why I have a question. Why do we need Pythonic? I think you have some typo problem. Pydantic, not Pythonic. Okay. So in Python, we use Pydantic because we can take advantage of the automation in data parsing and data validation without manually define this by the developer. So for example, in this case, let me demo a small program to you. Say window. Okay. So on my screen, you can see that. Okay. Okay. So in this demo program, you can see that I am using the Pydantic from the Pydantic model, and especially the base model. So when I define a class, a user class, I inherit from the base model. So I am telling the compiler that when a user interact with, when someone interact with the program, the compiler will take advantage of the base model from Pydantic to validation and to parsing input and validating the input. Okay, so if we don't use the Pydantic from the Pydantic model, this program will now look like that. Okay, we don't have this one. So we define user by explicitly define each property. So ID. So we need to define each instance by yourself. Okay. So in reality, this kind of approach is not good because we need to input directly to the parameter of a function or of a class. So practically in reality, we employ the Pydantic model. So the program is now more is now shorter, and it can easier to understand because we don't need to input explicit, or we don't need to input by yourself to the each parameter of a function. Okay. So to understand the powerful Pydantic model, I think you should perform 2 steps. The first one, don't use Pydantic. So just program a class user and input each instance to the class by yourself. Okay, like this case, and then you employ the bidentic model. So you can see that in this case, the bidentic model can so it's powerful because, as I mentioned earlier, in this program you have the friend is the lead of integer. Its member of this list is its member of friends is an integer value. So in this case, we only have 1 is an integer, 2 and 3 is not integer. 2 is a string and 3 is another data type. Okay, so if we program by yourself, you need in this case you need to program a function to validate each member, each element of the friends list is incompatible format. So in this case, we only have 1 is the right format, 2 and 3 is wrong because they are string and they are by value. Okay, so when you use pedantic model, the pedantic will automatically pass the data for you. So in this case, it will pass 1 is the integer value, 2 it will convert from a string to an integer value, and it will also perform it for the third element, which is 3. Okay, so using pedantic, you are taking advantage of its automation of data parsing and data validation without explicitly define the function by yourself. Okay. Now, before I go into the next session, do I have any question? Okay, so while you are thinking the question, I will send you this quick homework. Okay. Okay. On the chat box, I send you this week homework. Homework 3 on the e-learning platform. Mấy bạn có cần thầy giải thích bằng tiếng Việt không?
Dạ có thầy ơi.
Chắc cứ anh Việt kiểu này chắc xỉu ngang. Rồi, so I will use some Vietnamese for explaining the pedantic. Trong cái lab tuần này á, thì nội dung của tôi nói đơn giản, không, thật ra nó rất đơn giản chứ không phải tương đối, nó còn dễ hơn cái tuần trước nữa. Thứ nhất chúng ta nói về tai hình. Thật ra tai hình ý nghĩa đơn giản là gì? Như nãy thầy nói là chúng ta định nghĩa cái kiểu dữ liệu một cách tường minh, explicit trong chương trình của mình. Cho nên nãy thầy dùng từ là explicitly define á, định nghĩa một cách tường minh hay là khai báo một cách tường minh á, là chương trình của Python thì nó cũng chúng ta không cần phải khai báo biến. Chúng ta không cần khai báo cái kiểu dữ liệu của biến, data type. Thì bị không khai báo kiểu dữ liệu của biến thì chúng ta không tận dụng được hai thứ. Thứ nhất đó là cái cái editor nó hỗ trợ mình complete cái code. Ví dụ chúng ta gõ trong Java, chúng ta khai báo string A, sau đó là xuống dòng A chấm, thì editor thường nó gợi ý cho chúng ta các cái phương thức liên quan tới kiểu string, đúng không? Thì trong Python bị chúng ta không khai báo cái kiểu đấy đâu, nó biết để mà nó gợi ý cho mình. Thế thì chúng ta khai báo cái kiểu là chúng ta đang báo với editor biết là nó là kiểu gì, thì nó sẽ gợi ý cho mình các cái phương thức liên quan. Thì gợi ý là một chuyện thôi, còn chuyện quan trọng hơn là chúng ta khai thác cái pedantic. Thì pedantic là cái gì? Bình thường khi chúng ta viết cái lớp như cái lớp user hồi nãy á, chính chúng ta phải là cái người ngồi kiểm tra cái input đầu vào cho từng thuộc tính. Ví dụ chúng ta là trình lớp phân số đi, thì chúng ta phải kiểm tra là mẫu số phải khác không, đúng không? Thường chúng ta phải viết cái hàm giống vậy. Tuy nhiên trong pedantic nó sẽ có một số, nó sẽ có các cái lớp toán học để nó kiểm tra tự động cái việc đó cho mình, nếu chúng ta khai báo, nếu chúng ta kế thừa từ nó. Thì Trong cái ví dụ hồi nãy thì chỉ kế thừa từ cái base model thôi. Thì trong cái base model đó chúng ta chỉ đang tận dụng lại cái bộ data bạc sinh và data validation cơ bản của cái thư viện Pydantic. Pydantic là thư viện nhé, cho nên ta mới phải cài đó. Thì chúng ta để ý cái thuộc tính friends của cái lớp user. Thì cái thuộc tính friend đó là kiểu list, mỗi một phần tử là kiểu nguyên. Nhưng mà khi mà chúng ta demo chúng ta truyền cái kiểu cái biến external data, chúng ta để ý cái friend lúc này cái danh sách của nó là thập cẩm, in cũng có, string cũng có, rồi kiểu byte cũng có nữa. Nếu chúng ta nhắm mắt nhắm mũi cho người ta truyền vô như vậy thì chúng ta sai ở chỗ là cái gì? Kiểu byte với kiểu string làm sao gán như kiểu nguyên được, lỗi ngay lập tức, đúng không? Cho nên lúc này chúng ta dùng cái Pydantic để làm cái gì? Những cái nào mà có kiểu gần với in tự nó sẽ chuyển kiểu cho mình. Như số 2 chúng ta để trong ngoặc kép, tự nó pass in để nó ép kiểu về kiểu nguyên cho chúng ta tự động, chúng ta không cần phải làm chuyện đó. Cho nên ý nghĩa của việc dùng Pydantic là như vậy nha. Rồi ý tưởng chỉ có vậy đó. Còn cái unit 3 chúng ta ngồi đọc để hiểu hai cái khái niệm là asynchronous và synchronous. Ok hen, được không, được không?
Dạ vâng thầy.
Ok. Right. Now we talk about this week homework. Okay, homework number 3. Okay, in this week homework we have 2 parts. The first is we program we implement a program to call an external API to get the current weather. So there are some steps you need to perform for the first exercise. First, you obtain an API key from Urban Weather Map or similar API provider, but I strongly recommend using the Urban Weather Map, okay, because it's free. So first thing, you obtain an API from Urban Weather Map, and then you program a function that allow user input a location or city name or coordinates. Coordinates tiếng Việt chúng ta gọi là cái tọa độ, kinh tuyến địa tuyến. Thì you program a function allow user to input a city name or coordinate, or we call a location, and then you use that input sending to the API server to obtain the current weather of the location, and then you passing the output from the API and render it on the screen to the user. So you have some tasks for the first exercise. First, you need to obtain an API key. Secondly, you need to program a function to send a location, to get a location from user and send the location to the Urban Weather Map to get the current weather and return the value to or render the value to the user. And you need to have a user interface, such as a web interface, so that a user can enter a location and view the output, okay, on the screen. I think you should use HTML language for this case. And you need to have the caching mechanism. Caching mechanism in this case is very important because you can store and retrieve recent weather queries to reduce API calls. For example, if you have a large number, a very large number of customers, for example, you have 50 user. Okay, you have 50 user, and all of the 50 user want to know the current weather of Ho Chi Minh City. So instead of making a call to an API 50 times, you're only making a call one time, and you catch the result in a database or something else, And when other customer want to know the current weather of Ho Chi Minh City, you just get the value from the kick server return to the customer. So you can save a lot of money because you don't need to call to the API. Okay. And for the third challenges in this exercise, I think you should attend the functionality of the program. So instead of getting the current weather of the given location, you can get the weather forecast of the current location for about 5 days or 7 days. Okay, and in the first exercise, I also give you an example of Postman API code. Let me send it to you. Okay, so does anyone in other class know how to generate a code in Postman software? Chúng ta có biết dùng phần mềm Postman để nó tạo cái mã nguồn để chúng ta copy rồi không? Hello. Do we know how to use Postman software to generate a code? Okay. Let me show you how to do this in Postman. Okay. So on the screen, you can see that is the interface of the Postman software, and I am I am testing the function an API that getting the current weather of Ho Chi Minh City, and the URL is quite simple. The weather endpoint received two inputs. The first one is the location. Query is the location, and the second parameter is the app ID or the API key. So when I enter correct format, I click send. Okay, and then I receive the output from the server. This is the current weather of Ho Chi Minh City. Okay, in real time. Okay. Can we visualize? Oops. Okay. So the urban weather map return you the current weather of Ho Chi Minh City. So for example, the weather is clouds, and the temperature is 306 in Fahrenheit Celsius. Fahrenheit degree. Okay. Humidity, pressure, sea level, and etc. Okay, and then you want to obtain the code, so you can input it to your function or to your program. Easy. On the right sidebar, you see the code icon. Click it. And Postman supports many types of programming language. For example, you want to use Python, you can select Python. So it will generate for you the code. So you just copy that. You just copy and paste to your program. Quite easy, right? You want to use Java, you can select Java and this generate the Java code for you. Or you want to use, for example, in terminal or in command line environment, you select CURL. Or you want to use C, programming language, you can select C. Okay, so in Postman, when you successfully test an API call to an external provider and you want to obtain the code for your program, just click the code icon on the right sidebar and select the corresponding language. For example, you also have PHP or Python. Okay, So this is the way that you can obtain a code from Postman, a programming code from Postman. Okay. Now let's return back to the homework. Share screen. Oh, sorry. Now for the second part. So in the second part, you will get familiar with Python typing pedantic model. Okay, so they are very easy exercise. So for example, in question 1 of part 2, you implement a function add number with two parameters, number 1 and number 2, num1 and num2, which are both integers, and return their sum. So you need to use typing in this case to explicitly define the data type of variables and the return type of the function. Okay. For the second question, you implement a filter even numbers. Even numbers in Vietnamese we call số chẵn. In question number 3, you define a class book, and this class book has some properties such as title, author, and the title has this data type the data type of the property title is string, and it is also for the author. And for question number 4, you program a function named count word occurrences. So you take a string and return a dictionary where keys are unique words in the string, and value are the number of times each word appear. So for example, when I type an input string such as TDT, the output will be T2 D1. Okay, this is an example output for question number 4. Okay. Nãy mới thấy có bạn giơ tay. Nãy mới thấy có một bạn giơ tay là hỏi
Dạ
gì?
thầy ơi, cho em hỏi anh này xíu được không?
Hỏi đi Khiêm.
Dạ thì em xem cái bài tập á, thì nó có part 1 và part 2 á, thì bình thường thì có cần thì mà đối với part có cần phải làm hai cái, thì em có thể làm hai cái folder riêng biệt là part 1 với part 2 được không?
Đúng rồi, tách riêng ra đi, tách riêng ra. Part 1 riêng, part 2 riêng, tại hai bài này nó khác nhau mà.
Bình thường part 1 có là bao gồm các file cho cái ứng dụng.
Đúng rồi.
Rồi cái part 2 là từng file riêng lẻ cho từng câu hỏi.
Đúng. Thật ra cái part 2 em có thể dồn 4 file này vô 4 câu vô một file cũng được. Nói chung là tùy, nhưng mà chia làm 2 thư mục là đúng.
Dạ mà em biết rồi.
Okay, Kim. This is a good question because you need to organize your submission into 2 directories. The first one is for part 1 and the second is for part number 2. Okay, and you are freely to choose the programming language for part 1. So you can use Java or Python, as I mentioned on the first slide. You can use Java or Python to implement part 1. But in part number 2, you need to use Python because we are focusing on Python typing. Okay. So this is the homework description for this week. We have 2 parts. Part 1 is taking advantage of an external API, particularly an open weather map, to get the current weather for a given location. And for the second part, you will get familiar with Python typing and pedantic model to understand the 2 approaches in Python. Okay, so I remember, I will give you a guide of how to using Anaconda. Okay, Windows Anaconda. Okay, so after you successfully install Anaconda to your computer, a Mac or a Windows, and even for a Linux, you will now have an Anaconda navigator, as I saw on the screen. Okay, and to create a virtual environment. Virtual in Vietnamese we call ảo ha, môi trường ảo. To create a new virtual environment, you select environments on the left sidebar and then you click create. Okay, first you will name the virtual environment, for example test 1 2 3, and you select the Python version. So in Anaconda you will have many choices of Python version, so from 3.12, 3.11, 3.10 and so on. So for example I select 3.11, okay, and then I click create. So it can take some time. Okay, after you successfully create a virtual environment, you can start a terminal or a command line of that environment by clicking the play button and select open terminal. And then, oops. Okay, so I will share you the whole screen. A second. Entire screen. Okay, so you are viewing my entire screen. Okay, so in the Anaconda Navigator, when you successfully create an environment, you can start terminal by clicking on the play button and select open terminal. And then, okay, or you can use some command. Oh, okay. Okay, and you can use some command begin with conda. So you can type conda activate test 1 2 3 to activate the test 1 2 3 environment, virtual environment. And after you finish working with the test 1 2 3 environment, you can type conda deactivate to turn off the current environment. You can use the command conda and we list to list on the current virtual environment in your GitHub. Okay, and a full I think I will stop. A full list of conda command is available in this page. Then okay, you should download this file to your computer, and it will show you a list of a list of basic conda command. It's called conda cheat sheet. Search conda info to bring the current version of conda on your computer. Conda create to create a virtual environment. Conda activate or conda deactivate. Remember that if you are using Mac OS or Windows, you activate an environment by using if you are using Mac OS or Linux, you activate a virtual environment by using the command conda. In Windows, you just type activate. Okay. Now, homework. Conda. Okay. Attendance checking. Dân. Okay, now okay, attendance check in our class today. Thầy tiếng danh tí nha. Thiện Ân. Hello, Thiện Ân.
Dạ có rồi.
Ok. Tuấn Anh. Đâu mất rồi. Tuấn Anh có không? Qua nha. Oh, sorry. Ren, are you here?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Ok. Gia Bảo.
Dạ có này.
Ok. Ngọc Bình.
Dạ có rồi.
Ok. Minh Đăng.
Dạ có rồi.
Ok. Ủa sao hai bữa đầu vắng nè?
Cái tuần 2 bữa đó em nhập viện á, em có giấy nhập
Có
viện.
làm đơn không? Có giấy không?
Dạ em không, em có giấy nhập viện với xuất viện bữa ngay tuần thứ 2.
Vậy thì
Để học
gửi
offline
mail
em
cho
đem.
thầy chưa?
Dạ
Nó gửi
chưa,
mail thôi.
em tính học offline, gửi mail cho thầy ha.
Gửi mail đi chứ đem lên chỉ mấy tờ đó nhìn vô xui lắm.
Dạ dạ.
Gửi mail đi, nhưng mà có đúng không?
Dạ có, dạ có.
Để thầy đánh tạm vào đây nha. Rồi nhớ gửi mail nha.
Dạ dạ.
Nhất Đăng.
Dạ có thầy.
Ok. Chí Dũng.
Dạ có thầy.
Ok. Hoàng Duy.
Dạ có thầy.
Ok. Thanh Hùng.
Dạ có.
Mạnh Khang. Mạnh Khang có không? Rồi, absent. Gia Kim có.
Dạ có.
Đức Linh.
Dạ
Có
có.
Trần Mạnh Khang có hả? Sao nhắn tin vậy em? Đức Linh có đúng không? Miat, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Ok. Nhật Minh. Ngủ hả? Phone, are you here?
Yes, I'm here, sir.
Ok. Tiết Nhung.
How much?
Dạ có.
Yes. Trường Phát.
Yes.
Cao Phi.
Dạ có thầy ơi.
Ok. Hoàng Phong.
Yes, sir.
Thái Phong.
Có thầy.
Quang Thái.
Dạ có thầy.
Ok. Minh Thiện.
Dạ có thầy.
Huy Tiến.
Dạ đây thầy ơi.
Ok. Quốc Triệu.
Dạ có thầy.
Ok. Ngọc Tú. Vắng hả? Dương Tùng.
Dạ có.
Ok. Hữu Văn.
Dạ có.
Rồi. Nhưng nhớ lớp mình có một bạn năm, nhưng các bạn nào học hôm này sớm lắm. Đây. Ok. Rồi vậy hỏi lại nha. Lê Nguyễn Tuấn Anh vắng ha. Nhật Minh vắng. Nguyễn Ngọc Tú vắng. Rồi. Bây giờ thầy share cái mã QR cho mấy bạn lớp tiêu chuẩn nha. Lớp chất lượng cao không có liên quan gì đâu á. Có mấy bạn lớp tiêu chuẩn. Okay, this QR code is only for the standard quality program class only. Okay. So for the high quality class, on the e-learning system, you now have the homework 3 for this week, and the due day is on next Sunday. Okay, and you need to organize the submission into two folder. Each folder is for each part in the homework. In part one, you are freely to choose. You are freely to choose either Java or Python to implement. And for part two, you use Python language to understand the type hint in Python. Okay, and for the first week, you don't need to use Python on your local machine. You can use Google Colab to implement the program and then download it to submit. But for since the second lab, since the lab on next week, you need to have Anaconda and Python on your local machine. Okay. So, do we have any question on today class? Sao Ngân?
Thầy ơi thầy, cái giữa kỳ hạn là khi nào vậy thầy?
Còn lâu, giữa kỳ thì thầy đang tính là ok, để thầy nói một tiếng Anh. The midterm project, I am thinking to put the due date about in April. Okay, so you will have at least a month to implement the midterm project. Okay.
Với lại cái giữa kỳ em muốn hỏi là trong đề nó có liệt kê ra 4 đối tượng sử dụng là thực khách, quản lý, nhân viên phục vụ với nhân viên bếp. Nhưng mà trong cái bảng cái công việc chính của từng loại người dùng trong phân hệ thì nó chỉ có 3 người dùng là nhân viên
Đúng
phục
rồi.
vụ.
Rồi, hiểu câu hỏi rồi. Ở trong đó thầy không liệt kê khách hàng, lý do là khách hàng chỉ có một chức năng là gọi món. Hiểu không? Cho nên thầy không có liệt kê vô thôi. Nhưng mà được để thầy bổ sung và cho nó rõ ràng. Tại thầy không để vô lý do, nó chỉ có một cái nên cũng không có lý do gì để hiểu không? Sao Đạt Huỳnh Đạt sao em?
Thưa thầy, thì bài giữa kỳ là mình làm nhóm hay là làm cá nhân vậy thầy?
Nhóm chứ, cá nhân sao làm nổi, làm nhóm. Làm nhóm, môn nào làm nhóm hết, chỉ có mấy bài tập về nhà mới làm cá nhân thôi nhé.
Dạ rồi.
Okay, so if you don't have questions for our class today, we can end the class. Okay, see you all next week. Yay.
See you,
Dismiss.
sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Dạ thầy ơi, còn cái
Ôi.
vấn đề mà tiêu chuẩn học bù ở bên Thứ Tư như thế này á,